So in this video, we are going to write some queries in Base, just in behind here, to test our model. And if we're in the testing phase, you typically want a query that kind of spans most of your data model, if not all. So that you can see that all the tables are working together, that the foreign keys and primary keys are linked properly. So we'll do a couple of queries over here in Base to test this model to see if we can find out, what a gardener is growing and what plants they're growing, and maybe even what category that those plants fall into. Now, when you write a query, you don't need to use all of your data model, right? But because we're testing, we do want to write a query that hits on most of it. So I'm going to go into Base. I've already connected to my database. I just need to enter my username and password. So use the convention that we've discussed earlier. And I can see my Dunsmuir model, and this is the one I've already loaded with data, right? So now what we want to do is go to Queries and then write a query in Design View. And so what we'll do is we'll bring all these tables on. So I'll just add them all. I'll just close. Now it's going to rearrange it because you can see the lines have come in. And so we knew that a gardener, I'll just put plant types over here because I know it's on the outside. And that plants fall in a particular category, and that this table was always in the middle, or many-to-many the table. And so a simple query might be to test not the whole model, but a large portion of the model is which gardeners are growing carrots. And that way we span 4 tables. And of course we need to have linking rows in all of these tables to get anything back, but let's see what happens. So I'll just double click on name and name over here. And in the criterion, I'll put carrot and hit enter. Notice it puts quotes around it. And so what I can do now is try to run this query to see who is actually growing carrots in the garden. And so what's come back is that Rob, Rodney, and Robin are all growing some type of carrot. And so this effectively tests a large portion of our data model. So I'm going to save this query. Now you'll see in different products, sometimes they like to put a QRE prefix in front of their queries. We'll do that for now, but not sure if it's really necessary in the products that we're using. They're pretty smart about what they're dealing with, a table or a query. And I like to name them so that a person looking at the query kind of has an idea what it's going to do. So, who has carrots? I'll go OK. And I'll just close this for now. And when we go back, those are our tables, these are our queries, we have who has carrots. And if we updated the database with more garden information and more people were growing carrots, then we would see more names show up here every time we ran the query. So we'll do another one. Say you like blueberries, strawberries, you really have a fancy for berries. So how would you write a query that does that? And so we'll go back to the query window, make sure you're in the query window, and you go create query in design view. Again, we're going to need all the tables. And close. Now, you don't have to rearrange them. I can't help myself. Some ODC issue. I have to have a nice view of my data model. And so which gardeners are growing berries? Now, one thing I didn't talk about is these lines. The lines actually do a lot of work for us. They figure out how to get from gardeners to plots, to which plants are growing in which gardens, and then classifying them as a berry. And so right now, graphically, it's really easy just to drag the tables on, double click on the names you want, and all that linking information is handled in the background for us. We'll learn how to do that with SQL later on. But there is a lot of work happening for us, which is fantastic. This is where, the more work we can get the computer to do for us, the better. And I'll just run that. So this is going to be who has berries, but these are all types of berries. Like I said, strawberry, blackberry, blueberry. And so one thing is that berries coming back, right? But we said, well, no, I want to know what kind of berry it is, right? So we can go back and change that design, and that's usually just down below here, if it ever goes away on you. And what I really want to do is, yes, I want who's growing berries, right? But I want to display the name of the berry. And I really don't want to see berry showing up 3 times, berry, berry, berry. I want to see what the individual berry is. So we can actually uncheck that. So this brings up a thing in databases is that we can use columns to restrict what rows come out or what rows are in the result, but we don't have to show those columns. Okay, so that's another thing that databases do a little differently. So we can restrict, have a lot of restrictions on what rows come out. We don't necessarily have to show the columns we're using to use the restriction, and then just present the data. I'll run it again. And now we can see that Rodney's growing strawberry, Robin is growing raspberry, and Dave is growing blueberry. Okay, and again, we're using the plant type, the super category for the plants, to restrict anything that's classified as a berry, but we're not going to show that. Instead, we'll show the actual plant name. So we're going to save this. Again, we'll put the extensions, although it's debatable whether this is necessary today. So who has berries? And again, we'll close that. And so the idea is that when you double click on it, right, if that information is changing, and so it might change over the season, so we could make a more complicated garden. Who's growing what, and is it in the season, and is it ripe and ready for eating, all that kind of stuff. And that would change over the year when we ran the query as we change data in the database. Well, that's all I wanted to show you in this video, and so this concludes this demonstration.